Hello everyone, welcome to Hush Hush Taboo Talks with Juju and Shay. I'm Shay.
Juju here.
And we're doing another movie review, Spooktober, Spooktacular movie review. And this movie is another classic. We talked about Ghosts, go check that one out. But this movie is Edward Scissorhands. If you have not seen it and you've been living under a rock, go and check out that movie before you come here, because we're going to be deciphering it and also, picking out little parts that we love, we think that's metaphors, breaking it down for you. So I don't want to give you no spoilers if you haven't watched it yet. So go and watch it first.
Yeah, go out. I mean, also, it's 30-something years.
Yeah.
A spoiler, so yeah.
Right.
Get on it now. No, the original Edward Scissorhands, because I think there's a sequel coming out. Or no, that's Beetlejuice, but that's for another time.
Another Tim Burton.
Another Tim Burton,
yeah. Tim Burton is awesome. Shout out to him because I love all his
and Johnny Depp, but
Absolutely.
we'll get into that. Go ahead.
So this movie is, you see it. It's Johnny Depp is Edward. He has scissors as hands. And it's kind of like, it was giving me in the beginning, kind of like, because he was on a castle, in a dark castle on a hill. And this this inventor was like inventing him, like he wanted to make the perfect boy. So it was kind of giving me Frankenstein. It brought me back to old Frankenstein movies, but with a twist to it. So it was giving me Frankenstein. What stood out to me in the beginning was, it started off with this lady, this little prissy lady, with her gloves on and her hat and her colorful outfit, going around selling Avon. And you guys know Avon. Yes. You know Avon from back in the day. Everybody was selling it. And she was knocking to everybody's door. And you'll get pulled in this too, because as you see the road and the neighborhood that they live in, all the houses was in color. It was all colorful, pink,
pastels,
blue, pastels, and they were all like bright and colorful. And where Edward lived, you can see far away on a hill that was dark and it was a huge castle. So that right there was like kind of metaphorical for something that because Tim Burton he put little metaphors in there and signals in there anyway.
Yeah.
But that right there was like a, how do you say it? Like
visual giveaway?
Yeah.
Foreshadowing?
Right. Foreshadowing, basically. Yes. That you've seen what's going on. Like he painted you the picture, actually.
Right.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, I totally do. They do so much with so little, these actors, and Tim Burton. But I feel like it's not so little because Tim Burton probably goes a great deal of time alone contriving these things. But just Edward's mannerisms. When you said Frankenstein, that was interesting because a lot of people, and me for the longest time thought that Frankenstein was the monster, but it's the doctor who's I think it's Dr. Frankenstein and his monster, his creation. So everyone thinks that the monster / the creation is the perpetrator when actually he's the victim. Not to say that the inventor of Edward Scissorhands is a perpetrator, but also the actor who plays the inventor is the voice of Thriller. Like the goblins and goblins beware, or whatever he says. I can't think of it now, but he's also a legend in the horror business. But I thought that throughout the whole movie, and we'll get into this, he's seen as a villain. But then, we see the majesty and the power that so-called victimhood has. The person who is receiving all these things. Because of their individuality, because of their uniqueness, because of their just the eccentricity of it. Their unapologetic expression of themselves gets them in trouble. But if you're getting in trouble with those kinds of people, then that's probably the right trouble to get into, so to speak. But definitely. I did notice that, yeah. And that's just not Edward Scissorhands in particular, but all of Burton's work, it warrants, especially as an adult. Now I want to rewatch everything that he's done, except for like a few. Like the remake of Charlie and Chocolate Factory, I don't need to watch that again. But, the classic ones. As an adult, you see so many things that are more philosophical or metaphysical that require a deeper thought. And you're like, oh, he was doing all of this with just that little moment of magic, or those little moments of magic spread throughout the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree. I like when you touched on him scaring, like being kind of like painted out to be the villain, because I was going to go back into the beginning when she actually went to his castle, and from afar you seen that it was dark and scary, but when she went there it was actually big and beautiful. Like the lawn was colorful, everything around it was beautiful. Inside it was dark and scary because it hasn't been taken care of for years, and it was like gloomy because there was no light. But then when she seen Edward Scissorhands, she was scared. And she judged him based off his appearance right away. And this is what people do in real life. They would judge you.
They don't know any better. Right. All she sees is these perfect, no offense, but like European pastel perfect presentations. Like she doesn't see anything that resembles anything else.
Right, exactly.
Much less something so starkly different. But I'm
that
sorry.
part.
Yeah,
yes, no, you're right though. When people see something that's different, they judge and create stories and rumors and everything. Like for instance, a woman that take care of themselves, they will question them and look at them certain way and judge them and make judgment of them because they haven't grow up like that. They haven't had females that looked a certain way. They always had females that looked grungy or slumpy or whatever the case may be. So when they see a different type of female, a different type of male that looks good and take care of themselves, they would judge them and just spread rumors and just be intimidated by just in general, intimidated.
And sometimes it's always ignorance, but sometimes it's ignorance paired with curiosity, which I can get along with. It's like, ooh, what's that interesting being? I'm interested in getting to know that. Whether it's romantic or platonic or just because it's just pure curiosity.
Right.
As opposed to a place of judgment, which is what this BS turned into with Edward Scissorhands.
Right.
It started off as fascination because it always does, but instead of it going to curiosity and productivity and constructiveness, it went to he raped me. Like, we'll get there. She said that's I wouldn't say the word unless it was in
We'll get there.
Yeah, but that happened. That's not me. That's Tim Burton.
No, but you're right.
I wanted to make that point. And please, go ahead.
Absolutely,
I will
because
respond. Or elaborate,
First, when he came to the neighborhood, she took him to the neighborhood. She was kind-hearted to do that. She took him to the neighborhood, and everyone was gossiping. Everybody was on the phone.
Couldn't get on the phone
fast enough. Looking out the window. Who is this person? Who is this? Who is this? They wasn't terrified of him, but like you said, they were curious at first.
Yes.
So they were curious, and everybody was gossiping and like, oh, she brought somebody in town, and da-da-da-da-da-da. And after they found out that he was a creative, and he was using his scissor hands to make beautiful art and masterpieces in the backyard. And haircuts and beautiful dog cuts. And in the bushes would be these huge sculptures and even of ice. He would do
and for free.
For free.
He was not charging them any
everybody
American
in the
dollars.
neighborhood.
Nope. Yep.
For free. And they used him. I remember this. I don't even know if I wrote this down, but I remembered it. The guy was like, he was doing, Edward Scissorhands was doing his backyard bush, cutting it to a nice masterpiece or whatever. And the kid was like washing his scissor hands with the holes. I remember that. And the guy was like, no, don't use water. What do you want him to get oiled up? So they used him like a machine. They didn't look at him as a person, which is because he was different. Because he had the
I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah, they looked at him.
I thought they were trying to just maintain him, but for what reasons?
They used him. They were trying to use him. As soon
the
as something went wrong, like you said, he's the villain. He's this. He's that. I don't want him around. After you used him for all his creativity, because he was a true creative, artistically,
unadulterated, and then he probably would be diagnosed with ADHD or autism or some kind of something. Now, I do think what the woman there's one woman who's oversexed. Like I guess the housewife who doesn't she has the plumber come over who's kind of average looking. No offense to the actor, but the character's not supposed to be a heartthrob. He's not supposed to be the dude.
Maybe she's a Scorpio.
Maybe she's a sun, moon, and rising girl. Scorpio, and Scorpio, and I was Scorpio rising, and the rest kind of Leo. So I get it, like to have the urges, but she acts on all the urges desperately. So she's the kind who sees like a big, like tall, like what you call it, what's his name, Freddy Krueger, or the dude from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then she'll be like, what are you packing downstairs? But meanwhile, he's trying to kill you, bitch. Like it's like you can be Blanche Devereaux, but there's a time and place where sometimes you got to be Dorothy and you get the fuck out. So, but she was this woman. I forgot her name, but she was the first one who wanted to, I guess, try him out, so to speak. And she was trying to get close to him, and everyone was asking him questions. But she said, he already promised me that he'd give me a tour of his lovely hairdo and skills, or whatever she said. And they went in, and I guess they went into a space because they were also trying to capitalize on his and exploit his skill and make money off of it.
That's
and I
what it is,
remember,
exploit his skill.
girl, the bank, I have it down.
Yeah.
Let me get my notes. The bank was an interesting scene. They tried to go to the bank and solidify, I guess, monetary, like get a brick and mortar for him. And let me get it. Well, in the meantime, the woman goes in and into the space where he's supposed to be using as a storefront or, as his business. And she's basically seducing him the whole time. Like, that's her point. Kathy Baker is the actress, and she's great in the role. But she's seducing him, bypassing all the trouble. I guess her sex addiction outweighs her self-preservation.
Right. That part.
And she'll die having fun. Maybe that's one of the best ways to die. Who knows what?
Oh, God.
She's probably a Leo. She probably got one Leo in there. Scorpio and the rest. Leo and Scorpio.
God.
But then I think he doesn't respond because, he's socially awkward. So
yeah,
I don't know if he definitely doesn't respond the
Yeah.
way that she's expecting
Right.
this, like, freakish strapping lad to respond. And she just wants some D, to be honest, and he's not giving it up because he's not thinking that way.
He does it, and I'm glad you touched upon that.
Yeah.
Because you said he's awkwardly socially because he doesn't know how to respond. This is his first time around people.
Yes.
And then his
Human
first time
beings.
around human beings. These people are not average human beings. Let's put it like that. They work they have a routine. Everybody has the same schedule.
Like
you
the
see
movie
when they pull
Pleasantville.
in, they
It's like
pull
a
out
conveyor
the
belt.
same time.
Yes.
They pull in the same time.
Yes.
The woman is all the same at home, gossiping on the phones. It's like the same routine everybody has.
Yes.
So to be different and to come into this environment where everybody's basically almost the same, except the
And a
sex
certain
drive.
kind of the same. Yes, she's just the more
she's just-
sexual.
she's just sexual.
Because
She's
there's
still
another
the
one
same.
who's religious, and
But
I think she's the sexual one underneath it all. But she's just so religious, like legalistically religious.
I'm done.
But she says that Edward is a demon.
Yeah, right.
hell.
Because he's different.
Because he looks like because he's pale.
Yeah.
Because it's always winter where he is.
Yeah.
But
Because he looks different.
Yeah.
So
It's not hard to be different in those circumstances.
Oh,
though.
yeah.
I just want to point that out.
Yeah. Well, it's not hard to be different anywhere, to be honest.
Right.
Because everybody is sheep and they follow a certain
Yeah.
thing. So not everybody, but majority of people thinks
yeah.
like sheep. So if you do something different, you're automatically ostracized.
For sure. It's a blessing.
Right. So when I noticed in the kitchen, he seen this can opener machine, Edward. And he was just staring at it. I don't know if you remember that scene.
I do.
But I felt like that was a moment of like existential crisis, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, who am I? What am I? I have these things on my hands, these metal, things on my hands, but I can think, I can talk. So he's just staring at it. And I feel like he was just questioning who he was.
There was a reminiscence of it, like a flashback of him thinking about the factory work of his
uh-huh,
inventor
yes.
when he was looking at the can opener.
Right.
So that's a very,
yes, you're
that's a good
absolutely right.
connection.
Yes. And that made me think about, like, he was questioning himself. Why? Because everybody was using him just like they was using that machine. So he had a thought, like you said, he went back to the factory and was like, so what am I? Who am I? Like I felt like that was a moment of question, and I just felt like I wanted to cut
to totally bring that up.
Right.
That is the epitome of an existential crisis.
Right.
I did find, and I, my my 60-page thesis that only had to be 40, but it wound up being 60, but whatever, because it had to be my way, because it was mine. You're going to write 40 to 60 pages on something, it better be something you love. Anyway, it was on existentialism.
Right.
So I totally can see that connection, and I could probably write another essay about that. That's soon come, y'all, but y'all got to pay for it. So I found the bank note, the note I wanted to make about the bank. So when Edward goes to the bank and tries to take out a business loan for a prospective beauty parlor, the banker says, and I quote, "No credit, no record of jobs you've held, no savings, no personal investments, no social security. You may as well not even exist. There is no collateral." So remember the Mary Poppins episode we did about how he wanted to give his tuppence to the bird lady, the little boy, and then they had a whole thing, and Dick Van Dyke looked like Satan. That's what this reminded me of. Dick Van Dyke played so many.
So basically, you have no identity.
You don't have a right to live and exist
because you're not associated with any type of bank credit or
you haven't earned it. You have to. You know how they say earn a living. It implies that you have to meet a certain minimum of requirement. Yes, minimum of requirements just to be able to live. So
That
for
was a
food
good
and water,
analysis.
shelter and love, you need to pay money, which doesn't exist to live. So yes.
That's a good analysis.
And so capitalism taught predatory, parasitic capitalism, because I believe that in all of this multiverse, and like if the universe is limitless in space, and it doesn't have any constraints or restrictions, then I would think that you can develop a form of capitalism, or at least barter, that isn't parasitic and predatory.
Right.
So, but in this iteration, which is dying, thank God. But with any death, it's going to be bloody, and with any rebirth and all of that, death and birth are bloody, but they're also cathartic and necessary. Anyway, the dude was saying and I'm like, Tim Burton, they let him release this kind of like They Live. Like they let them release this much information, but it was very subtle. Like if you weren't paying attention, you might miss it. Yeah. Just like in Mary Poppins, though, in They Live, there was a reference to parasitic and predatory capitalism. He might as well not exist, especially as the weirdo that you are, without any skills that could be used capitalistically.
Right. I love that
Exploited
you brought that up. That was
capitalistically.
really good. That was really
Oh,
good.
thanks,
Like
girl. I've patted myself on the back. I said, wait, I gotta write this shit down. I gotta put his thing in quotes. It's not even me, it's the banker. But yeah.
So also I noticed that jealousy played a huge part in this movie. When the girlfriend of is it Winona?
Winona Ryder.
I can never pronounce her name.
Winona. Shirley.
But when her boyfriend seen Edward Scissors, he got very jealous of Edward because he was creative. He was doing all this stuff in the neighborhood. Everybody at that point, when the boyfriend came home, loved Edward. They loved him, right? So now he's like, who is this guy? Why is he? That's jealousy of the crap. He's questioning who he is. Why is he here? So he set Edward up, spoiler alert, set Edward up to doing a burglary. And that's when things go downhill.
On his own home.
That's when things go downhill for Edward. And I felt like he locked him in the room to blame him for the burglary because he was jealous. He was envious because he was getting all the shine out of the neighborhood, even from his own girlfriend and his girlfriend's parents. So he was envious about all this love he was receiving and why he's here and why was he receiving this. Let me set him up. And now, as at a drop of a dime, like they always do, everybody turned against Edward. Now he's the bad guy.
Edward knew. Right just after that whole confrontation, Edward said, Winona was like, are you okay? And Edward's like, I knew that it was his house. I knew that y'all were setting me up. And she's like, then why did you do it? And he said, because you asked me to. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And they both pale as fuck. And I'm like, maybe it's the vitamin D deficiency that gets her like asking all these stupid questions. But he's so genuine. Like he would be that way. He hasn't been... It's like infants, like babies when they're first born. They haven't been conditioned to the rubbish yet. Or they haven't had to adapt. They haven't had to adapt to the rubbish yet, I should say.
Right.
The rubbish of the systems. Because life is beautiful. It's the systems that we uphold that make it ugly. I agree with all that, and I wanted to make one more point.
Okay, and then I'll make one more. I know we have a couple minutes left.
Well, I don't listen. We said the R word, so I just wanted to say these are again not my words, but I do have an experience as a human. So the neighbors, after Edward is falsely arrested for breaking and entering, this is actually the perfect time to say it, and they're all chatting. So this is under quotes, but I forgot who said it. After he practically raped Joyce. Are you going to the Christmas party? And Joyce definitely practically raped him. So, like, this is the whole story. Like, after Joyce, the oversexed one, secluded him and, like, got him into a room. And he's so suggestible. He's not going to say no. He doesn't really take assertion in his life. So he's going to say, okay, fine, because he thinks that everyone is good-willed like him. Right. And then he's not as aggressive sexually as she would like. So it turns to rape, according to her. And then, so I wrote down that there's a privileged perspective and perception, i.e. the perspective and perception taken seriously, versus reality, which is a town of mostly narrow, simple-minded culturally limited people who unnecessarily and falsely vilify an outcast for his eccentricity, despite their obvious obsession with him. So they can be completely, and this happens in real life. I can talk about it. You can talk about it. People become obsessed with you, and the minute it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with their misunderstanding or lack of perception, lack of compassion, whatever it is. It's a lack. Whatever their lack is. And it's usually narcissistic, and it's usually a gaslighter and a bully. They present and project stories and narratives to other people, and if the other people know you, then it's fine, and if they don't, then who gives a shit?
Right.
But whoever knows you knows the truth from a lie. I think the Buddha or someone said, two things cannot long be hidden: the sun and the truth. So, you know, I just wanted to point that out. She didn't respond a certain way, and then he was delinquent because he was caught breaking into someone else's house, which was the dude's house that he was an accomplice with, and the girlfriend that he was trying to impress. And everyone's against him, so it's too easy to have that story. And since he neglected your advances, he said no to, he negated your advances, then he's a rapist. Like, yeah, no, you're full of shit. Right. Just saying. Right. Even in Pleasantville with all these pastels, well, especially so because there's nothing to do but gossip. I guess they never heard of James Baldwin. Read a book.
Right. And also, I like to add too. I felt like everybody turned against him so fast. Like I felt like they were waiting on his demise. Like, and I had that in real life too. Like a person that turns against you so fast at a drop of a dime, that claim they're there for you the whole time or happy for you the whole time, was waiting for your demise the whole time. Like, let's be honest. Like,
trying to help it along. Yeah. trying to accelerate the demise. You think I'm gonna help you be my hostage taker? There is no Stockholm syndrome over here.
Right, that part.
No, go ahead. I don't love my kidnapper. I don't get kidnapped. Go ahead, baby.
But thank you guys for watching. That was all for today's episode. It was a good job. I loved this episode. I think I like this one better than the Ghost.
I feel like I ain't gonna compare the two.
No, but I like it.
I do. I like this one too. There was more. I just feel like I'm more at home with Ghosts, so it's more like laying in the like lounging. With this one, I feel like we're at a jazz cafe. Yeah. You know, I feel comfortable, but a little bit, but I'm still like sitting erect. Right. Before I was lounging.
I'm totally
no, that's what happens when you go to work with good people.
Yeah, absolutely.
It don't feel like work.
Period.
We take notes as we go on.
Right.
Period.
Well, thank you guys for watching Taboo Talks with Juju and Shay, and don't forget to follow us on.
Follow, like, subscribe, otherwise engage on hush_Instagram. Right here on YouTube, obviously, and on Facebook, kind of, but on Spotify, where you get your podcasts. Right. Simple enough. Besides the ones we haven't gotten to, but soon come.
Yes. And if any movies y'all want us to review, that's like, hey, yes, drop it down.
As long as it's respectful, we will at least consider it. This is our work. So thank you for the professionalism, for the love, for the continued support. We appreciate y'all.
Thank y'all.
Until next time.